Good morning, students. Welcome to today's class. Now, check your basket on Telegram. We'll send it to you. We are working on it. The question. Look at the first one. The colonial territory in Africa. The colonial territory in Africa was dash. A. Namibia. B. Zimbabwe. C. South Africa. D. South Sudan. Let me take your mind back. We all know that when we talk about colonial territory, we all know that Britain acquired several countries in Africa. Several countries in Africa. Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, South Africa, South Sudan. Now, from the question you've seen here now, the place where those countries were partitioned, they call it a Berlin Conference in Germany of 1884, 1885, just to refresh your memory. So if you look at the question now, Namibia was formerly a colony of Germany. Germany lost after World War I. Zimbabwe, no, South Africa was the answer. South Africa was what? Colony of what? Great Britain. The answer is C. The next number. Oh, before that, you remember also that the French too acquired what? 9 countries in Africa. French colonial territory in Africa. We have what? Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, Guinea, Mozambique, etc. We are not going to that one. I don't want to let you understand that. And remember that the British used what? Indirect rule system. Why the French use what? Direct rule. And remember that the French government are what? Cultural by God. Cultural by God. The French government are said by virtue of their color, and they are too proud. So they now extend their mode of religion, language on their territory in Africa. And that's what they call what? Policy of what? Assimilation. And that's recorded what? Total fiasco, failure. And that policy has only work in the commune of Dakar, Gori, Wofisque, and St. Louis. So sorry for the story. Let's go back to our question. The next question. Which of the following contributed greatly to the introduction of the Clifford Constitution? Now, if you remember in our last class, I told you that under the constitutional development in Nigeria, the first constitution that was established was what? Clifford Constitution of 1922, 1923. And that Clifford Constitution comprised of what? 46 members. We have 27 official members, European, and 19 unofficial. One major thing about the Clifford is that it introduced what is called elective principle. Elective principle. Elective principle. That elective principle led to the conduct of election and the emergence of political party. That's where we're going. Look at what they wrote there. Which of the following contributed greatly to the introduction of the Clifford Constitution? Remember what I said? It is what? Elective principle. That elective principle led to the what? Conduct of election and the emergence of political party. We all know that political party is an organized group of people who share the same political ideology with the ultimate aim of gaining what? Political power. The first political party in Nigeria was established by what? Abat Macaulay, NNDP, NNDP, Nigerian National Democratic Party, formed in 1923. So according to our question here, look at it very well now. A, we have Nigerian National Democratic Party. B, Nigerian Youth Movement. C, Lagos Youth Movement. D, National Congress. The answer is A, Nigerian National Democratic Party. Remember I told you, it's the first political party in West Africa, even Nigeria. And it was formed by what? In 1920 by Abat Macaulay. Late Abat Macaulay. Take note, please. What led to this formation? As well, that was elected principle that was introduced by what? Clifford Constitution in 1922. We move on to the next question. The local government council in Nigeria was made a dash. 2-tier system, 3-tier system is what? 3-tier system of government. Federal government, state government, and local government under 1979 Constitution. Obasanjo. We move on to the next one. Number 60. The presidential election was lost and won even before the first ballot were cast. Essentially, because it it had been defined as a referendum on the incumbent, but the loser also, for the first time in the history of election in Nigeria, congratulated the winner. And that was not part of the script. Almost 2 years on, it is clear that the expectation that fuel the change of government have not been met. Against the background of the health challenge that kept President Buhari in the United Kingdom for 51 days, with hints that he will need further medicals abroad, there's already a feeling of despondency. Despondency simply means sadness, with no certainty as to how it will all play out. According to the passage, the election was lost because A, the former president congratulated the winner. B, the president was sick. C, the election was rigged. D, the expectations of the electorate were not fulfilled. Now you look at from the passage, let me read it again for you. The presidential election under Buhari regime, that's what we're saying, was lost and won even before the first ballot were cast. They are looking at what? The antecedent. Essentially because it had been defined as a referendum on the incumbent. What is a referendum is an election that tends to seek the opinion of the electorate in relation to the government plan of action. Now, if they conduct referendum on an incumbent, and we all know that Buhari was not health-wise strong then, was terribly ill, definitely there will be what? Vote of no confidence being passed on the incumbent by virtue of his health issues. Let's move on first. But the loser also, for the first time in the history of election in Nigeria, congratulated the winner, and that was not part of the script. Almost 2 years on, it is clear that the expectation that fuel the change of government have not been met. You can see, against the background of the health challenge that kept President Buhari in the United Kingdom for 51 days, with hints that he will need further medicals abroad, there is already a feeling of despondency, sadness, with no certainty as to how it will play out. According to the passage, the election was lost because A, the former president connected the winner, no. B, president was sick. C, the election. D, the answer is D. The expectation of the electorate were not fulfilled. The expectation of the electorate were not fulfilled. That's the answer. 61, Nigeria was not ready or willing to face a problem. Nigeria was not willing to face a problem if our leaders had approached their duty with humility. They all might have realized long before the coup that the country was in deep trouble. Nigeria was rocked by one crisis after another in the years that followed independence. We know that we are in 1960. And check where we were after independence, we were having one problem or the other, Western crisis region, crisis. Between Awolowo and Akintola over what? The post of premier in the West that led to the incarceration of Obafemi Awolowo. And they now later declared was state of emergency in the West. And now another census crisis of 1964, Western parliamentary crisis election of 1965. All these crises rocked Nigeria immediately after independence. And we all know that independence was what? Negotiated. We were still under the what? The British, represented by what? The indigenous governor general, the last indigenous, the indigenous governor general, in the person of late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, meaning that as at that time, Queen of England was still the overall head of Nigeria. And remember, British Privy Council was the highest court in the land, not Supreme Court. So in 1963, the Supreme Court became the highest court in the land. Please take a look. Let's go on with the question, which was followed by the Western Nigeria election crisis of 1965, which threatened to split the country, as it seems. At that point, most of us, the writer at least, knew that something was very wrong in Nigeria. A fix was long overdue. When the artist's imagination clashes with life's very reality, it creates a heavy conundrum. The story Nigeria had of ourselves was that something like a military coup would never happen. Nigeria was too stable for that. We were utterly unprepared for such an event. And for the magnitude of the dislocation that ensued, generally, people assumed that a military coup would never happen because you can imagine the assumption. We felt so relaxed. And it was that lacuna, that loophole that the political class left behind. That was what made the world military to hijack power. We all know that military is an aberration. They are not meant to rule the country, but they lack the foresight, the vision. Theirs is to protect the national integrity and to ward over external aggression or attack. Now let's now see. A, the country was not prepared for a coup. B, Nigeria thought that the country was too stable for a coup. C, Nigeria were not willing to face their problem. D, all of the above. The answer is D, all of the above. The country was not prepared for a coup. You never thought. Nigeria thought that the country was too stable. Yes, there. C, Nigeria were not willing to face it. Yes. All of the above is the answer. D. Number 62. The political parties that contested 1993 presidential election in Nigeria were, now let me take your mind back. Remember we said earlier that a political party is an organized group of people who share the same political ideology with the ultimate aim of gaining political power. And we all know that the body that is saddled with the responsibility of conducting free and fair election as at 1979 was known as what? FEDECO. FEDECO. What's the full meaning of FEDECO? FE, the Federal, E, Electoral, CO, Commission. This was the body that conducted 1979 election that brought in the first civilian president, Alhaji Shehu Shagari. Take note. And that 1979, the chairman was what? Michael Ani. Chief Michael Ani was the FEDECO chairman that conducted 1979 election. And that 1979 election, we have 5 political parties that were registered. 5 political parties. We have UPN, we have MPN, we have GMPP, we have PRP, we have MPP. Class, the full meaning of UPN is called Unity Party of Nigeria. Obafemi Awolowo was the president candidate. Unity Party of Nigeria. Obafemi Awolowo was the founder and president candidate for the party during 1979 election. NPN, National Party of Nigeria. Alhaji Shehu Shagari was the candidate. Shehu Shagari was the president candidate of the party. We have GNPP, Great Nigerian People's Party. Alhaji Ibrahim Wasiri was the president candidate. Alhaji Ibrahim Wasiri was the candidate of the party. We have PRP, People's Redemption Party. Alhaji Aminu Kano. Alhaji Aminu Kano was the flag bearer. The last one, NPP, Nigerian People's Party, late Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was the candidate of the party. They may ask in your exam, how many political parties contested 1979 election? 5 political parties, meaning Nigerian parties or multi-party system. And the party that eventually won the election was what? NPN, National Party of Nigeria, that brought in Alhaji Shehu Shagari as the first executive or civilian president of Federal Republic of Nigeria. However, if you ask in your exam that who is the first president in Nnamdi Azikiwe, it was nominated after independence. There was nothing like election. But in 1979, the first civilian or executive president emerged, and the person of what? Alhaji Shehu Shagari, under the platform of what? NPN, National Party of Nigeria. Now, if you look at this question that they were told here now, it was in what? Truncated Third Republic. That was in 1989 to 1993. And we have 2 political parties then. We have SDP and NRC. SDP, Social Democratic Party. The president candidate was what? Late Alhaji MKO Abiola. M stand for Moshood. K Kashimawo Abiola. While NRC, National Republican Convention, Alhaji Bashiru Tofa was the flag bearer. Bashiru Tofa. Meaning that the Nigerian party was 2-party system, 2-party. Under the word, truncated Third Republic, truncated Third Republic. Election was conducted. A winner emerged, and the winner was not allowed to rule. That's why they call it what truncated or republic. So they now ask on this question that the two political parties that contested 1993 election, A, NCR and MVP, wrong. NRC and SDP, PDP and NRC and SDP. There's an error here. NRC, and SDP. They wrote it twice. So the answer is both B and D. Probably typographic error. And that I want you to understand now. The man that conducted 1993 election, the next chairman was next stand for National Electoral Commission. Professor Humphrey Nwosu was the next chairman that conducted 1993 election. And that's the widely acclaimed the freest election that has ever been conducted in Nigeria. And it was annulled by the then military head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. So take note, don't want to waste too much time. Why in 1999? The Electoral Commission changed to what? INEC. In 1999, the Electoral Commission changed to what? INEC. Class, what do you understand by INEC? We all know that INEC is what? Independent National Electoral Commission. And that INEC registered what? 3 political parties for that election then. 3 political parties as at that time, 1999. We have what? PDP, AD, and APP. The chairman, the first chairman of INEC, the inaugural chairman, Professor Ephraim Ibukola Akpata. Ephraim Ibukola Akpata is the inaugural chairman of INEC, and is the first INEC chairman who died on the throne. Quite disheartening. The first INEC chairman, the inaugural chairman who died on the throne on January 8, 2000. He died on January 8, 2000. January 8, 2000. Take note. He died on January 8, 2000. January 8, 2000. The first INEC chairman. The first INEC chairman to die in office. To die in office. Please don't forget to. So we said after this NEC, we have INEC, and we still have INEC. And the chairman then was what? Ephraim Ibukola Akpata, the first INEC chairman who died on the throne. And the man registered was 3 political parties: PDP, People's Democratic Party, Olusegun Obasanjo was the flag bearer, AD, Alliance for Democracy, Olufalaye, APP, People's Party, Muhammadu Buhari. But you know what that is quite amazing, quite interesting here. Olusegun Obasanjo was having a J term then. Remember that then the government wanted to compensate the Yorubas, having deprived them of their right to rule in 1993, when Abela was on ceremonial war, sent to jail for trying to reclaim his mandate, and eventually died in prison on July 7, 1998. Now, Obasanjo was formerly the first military ruler to hand over to civilian president in the year 1979. In the year 1979. So after 20 years, Obasanjo had already disengaged from the military for 20 years. After 20 years, God now restored him and brought him back to be the second civilian president. And the first civilian president spent 80 years on the throne. Nobody has equaled that record. He was the first military ruler, fourth military head of state, and the first military ruler to conduct election in 1979 under Fedeco, and hand over power to Alhaji Shehu Shagari. After 20 years, 79 to 1999, God now brought him back to reap the fruit of his labor. He now became the second civilian president and the first civilian president to spend 8 years on the throne. So let's move on. The next question. The Igbo traditional political system of government was dashed. This is under pre-colonial. A, we have a acephalous. B, segmentary. C, Republican. D, all of the above. If you look at what is acephalous, in Igbo land, there's no central authority. power is scattered among certain individuals, such as paramount chiefs, or all title holders, or four title holders, age grace society, council of elders. So A is there. Segmentary is still the same thing with Artifalos, the same with Republican. So the answer is all of the above. The answer is D, all of the above. So don't forget. 64. The Maffasin Constitution of Nigeria created. Let me quickly give you a breakdown of this constitution. The Maffasin Constitution of 1951 created that. Now, we said earlier on, if you are following what I just said earlier on, I said the E4 Constitution, E4, introduced what? Elective principle. If you remember, this is major achievement, innovation, elective principle. This elective principle led to what? Conduct of election and the emergence of what? Political party. That's the major thing that the Constitution did. That's 1923, T4 Constitution. Then Richard Constitution of 1946. 1946, bicameralism. Bicameralism. Please take note. Richard Constitution of 1946, bicameralism. That is two chamber of legislature in the north. Why the west and east practice what? Unicameral. And again, for the first time, the unofficial became the majority in the Richard Legislative Council. We have 44 members. 28 blacks majority. 16 white minority. I get it now. Then that back to your Maffasin Constitution. Maffasin introduced what? Bicameralism into the west. Bicameralism into the west. Into the western region, right? Now remember, don't forget that we said bicameralism was introduced to the north first under Richard Constitution. Why the west and east practice unicameral? In Maffasin Constitution of 1951, bicameralism was introduced to west, and this bicameralism was still retained in the north. Why the east practice was unicameral? So if you look at the question now, the Maffasin Constitution of them created A, bicameralism for the eastern region. No, nothing like that. B, bicameralism for the central government. No. Bicameral, western region. No. For the west. The answer is D. Bicameralism for the western region. Remember, bicameralism, two chamber of legislature for the west. Please take note. You know, I told you earlier on, remember, I said bicameralism for the west. By who? Maffasin of Constitution of 1951. Bicameralism for the north. Under who? Richard Constitution. Richard of 1946. Please don't forget. Take note. Why people introduce what? Elective principle that led to the conduct of election and the emergence of political party. And I told you that the first political party in Nigeria is what? NNDP, Nigerian National Democratic Party, formed by Abat Macaulay in 1923. Let's move on to the next question. A constitution can be defined as dash. We all know that constitution is a framework that defines a country. A, the rules guiding parliamentary procedure. B, a legal document to guide judges. C, the constituent element of a contractual agreement. D, the rules guiding the affairs of an institution of society. The answer is D. The rules guiding the affairs of an institution. No country, no organization can survive without a constitution. It's a framework that determines how power should be allocated. Whether a state, institution, it could be government, it could be an organization, you must have a framework, even in a school setting, even at home. We all know that father will draw up a constitution. This is what I want you to do. This is what I don't want you to do. And without this constitution, there will be violation of fundamental human rights. And remember that human being, we have what? Animalistic instinct. When we now draw up a kind of constitution, it will serve as a source of what? Source of what? Peace and orderliness in the country. If there's no country, there's going to be what? Chaos. There's going to be what? Violation of fundamental human rights. So take note, the answer is D. The rules guiding the affairs of an institution of society. We'll move on to the next question. The president of the interim national government in Nigeria in 1993, we all know. Let's take our mind back. What led to that interim government? Remember, Abela won June 2023 elections squarely, but they deprived him of his right. He proclaimed himself president and he was arrested and detained. In order not to leave a vacuum, Babangida never wanted to leave. So you now step aside. Having stepped aside, they now have interim government who was mandated to conduct election. And the interim government, Ernest Shonekan, spent only 84 days in office. He was impeached or removed by what? Coup, another coup that brought in late General Sani Abacha, the 7th military head of state, on November 17, 1993. Take note. So if you look at the question now, we're told that the president of the interim national government in Nigeria in 1993 was A. Olusegun Obasanjo, B. General Ibrahim Babangida, C. General M.K. Abiola, D. Chief Ernest Shonekan. Ernest Shonekan too is from Abeokuta. The same thing with Abiola and Obasanjo. Can see. So please take note. The guy only spent 84 days in office. You will be asked. 84 days. He was removed November 17, 1993 by what? General Sani Abacha, the 7th military head of state of Nigeria. Now let's look at another one. 71. In a presidential system of government, the minister are dashed. If we cast our mind back under parliamentary, we said in parliamentary system of government that the minister are collectively responsible for the what? For the parliament. If any minister does anything wrong, it will affect the whole cabinet, meaning there is what? Collective responsibility. You cannot apportion blame to one individual. Unlike presidential system of government, the minister are accountable to the presidency. If any minister does anything wrong, they can remove it or redeploy it to another ministry. So look at the question that give us here. They said, in a presidential system of government, the minister are dashed. A, collectively responsible to the National Assembly? No. B, individually responsible to the judiciary? No. Individually responsible to the presidency? That's the answer. They are responsible for the what? Responsible for what? President. Because president has the power to remove any minister who has failed to live up to expectation. Let's assume that we all know that the last year, WAEC wasn't quite how they call it, interesting. We had case of all terrible error on the day of English. So I had to write the exam late in the night, around 10, 11. The prayer we're in a state of panic. And we said that the minister Minister of Education should be removed. The same that applies to JAM, nothing. So remember what we said now. So let's go on to the last question. In a presidential government, the president exercises the power to dash. A, impeach his minister. B, dismiss his minister. C, dissolve the cabinet. D, make law. The president dismiss the minister. That is sack, outright sack. A minister who has failed to perform his duty judiciously, you have to face the wrath of the presidency. This does not concern Senate or judiciary. No. The executive has the power to remove any minister, just like the way governor has the power to remove his commissioner at the state level. So the presidency equally has the power to remove any minister who has failed to carry his vision along. So take note. The last question, 74. No, 73. The central concept in the study of government is that the central concept in the study of government is that A, authority, B, power, C, culture, D, none of the above. The answer is of power. Why do you think that everybody is fighting to attain the position of authority? But they want to attain that power. When you have power, absolute power, corrupt absolutely. So that power, that is the position of authority, whereby you can enact. Look at the presidency now. Who can question the authority of the presidency? Have you ever had the president has been impeached in Nigeria? No, you can only impeach governor or senator. For presidency, it's quite cumbersome nature. It's not possible. So power is the answer there. We all know that authority under the concept of government is the second one. Power comes first. After authority, what was legitimacy? After legitimacy, what was sovereignty? Please take note. The last one, the instrument used by the government to distort information in the political system is known as dash. A, we have misinformation. B, propaganda. C, misinterpretation. D, spread of is what propaganda, false promises. We all know that political party, whenever they are holding their campaign or rally or whatever they are doing, they will promise the electorate what they will never do. They will put in their manifesto, what they manifesto, a program of action of a political party, if eventually win an election. And what they are selling to is what? Manifesto. And most of this in our fallacious statement, fallacious promises that they will never fulfill. Look at what our own Tinubu told us then. We're not going to that place now. The answer is what? Propaganda. So we are done with the question. I think it's time for you to ask question, please. 5 minutes for your question. In the house, please. Question time.